So what was the very first thing you did when you went into work today?
So the first thing I did when I got into work, check up on some scheduled jobs that I had before. Not only did this include checking on the data pipelines, but also yesterday I had mentioned that I was building out a scheduler to send a email out with some numbers generated from a report. The person who I did that for was looking to have it done on Friday. So I originally scheduled it for today and for tomorrow. The first schedule for today being like a test run to make sure that the numbers got delivered on time and it looked the way that it's going to look for tomorrow. So after that, just continue to work on coming up with different parameters for the new marketing campaign.
So can you go into any detail, like regarding how exactly you worked on that?
So the first thing that I did was I went ahead and looked at the historical data that was already existing in our data warehouse. This is data that's been generated, or not generated, but moved into our data warehouse with our data pipelines. Essentially what I did was a quick scan of column headings, column rows, what type of data, just to get a feel of as to how much and what kind of data I'm working with. So this data exists in our data warehouse, which is in Amazon Redshift, and you use a special, I guess it is a specific tool called SQL Workbench J. It's a web application. Well, really, it's a computer-just application that you essentially log into your Amazon Redshift data warehouse, and it gives you an interface being able to click on different tables and view different column headings. And you can write SQL script in there, which is can help you generate more tables or pull out specific instances. You can generate views or join two tables together in this way. However, I wasn't doing that in this case. I was just sort of shifting through the data for my purposes right now. After I checked out the sort of data that I was looking at, I stepped aside and made a list of just where the data was being pulled from. So in our Redshift data warehouse, each of our tables have specific headers referencing where the data that exists in those data are coming from, whether this be our Mongo database or Salesforce database or our homegrown database. Essentially, I kind of looked at what tables I thought would be most useful, what tables I could see data being used for creating these parameters, wrote down which ones I thought they would be most useful, and then which columns I thought I would need from each table. After that, I worked in our Matillion tool to then pull together those specific tables and do a little bit of transforming and editing out the columns that I didn't need and specifying only the columns that I would need from those tables. And then finally, Matillion would then create a new table in Amazon S3 where it would be a CSV file, which can be pulled out and manipulated in Microsoft Excel.
So that's how you spent your morning. How did your afternoon go? What did you end up doing after lunch?
I was watching online lecture videos from this online library called Pluralsight. And what it is, it's a really cool tool. It's a really nice collection of online lectures about topics ranging from how to use Photoshop to using different scripting languages. And it's really something that we use as a tool in case we need to learn something new. I say we as the IT department. In case we want to learn something new, we can watch this set of videos. They're broken up into segments to make them easily consumable, and they can range from an hour-long to 7-hour-long lectures that just sort of take you through any sort of technology that you're curious about. So I've been using those videos when I have free time like I had today to maybe watch some Python tutorials and try to learn more about what people are using Python for or how it's being taught really on these online lectures. Just to try to stay informed, just another way of educating yourself and making sure you're keeping up with always constantly learning new skills as well as practicing your old ones.
So what was the very first thing you did when you went into work today?
So the first thing I did when I went into work today were check up on the data pipelines as well as check to make sure my scheduled Python email had sent off and it had the proper data in it.
And how did that turn out?
Worked out great. It just involved me sending another email out to the person who was supposed to receive it, asking if they had gotten everything, and they emailed me back, said they had, so that was all good.
So what did you do after that?
So for the rest of the day, I worked on looking at some other different Python libraries to help better optimize the way that we're accessing certain data points. Specifically, what I worked on was exploring which Python libraries would best work at using Salesforce data. So as I was telling you a little bit about Python over the past couple of days, Python is an open source language, meaning that it's free to use, but also that there's a large community of Python users out there who are usually pretty active and posting whether questions they have about using Python, and other people can respond to them, or different Python code has already been written, and whoever's writing it posts that on a website and makes it available for somebody else to go and look up and access and use their own that script to meet their own needs. What I was using it was I was looking up different code people have written for accessing Salesforce.
Now, what exactly is Salesforce?
Yeah, so Salesforce is a third-party, well, I shouldn't say a third-party, is a tool for not only a business's sales team, but also a CRM, a customer relationship management service. Essentially, what it allows you to do is track orders, customer information, and basically help to organize a sales team.
So now what exactly are you doing regarding Python and Salesforce?
Instead of going through our data warehouse to pump out CSV or Excel sheet, I can instead access all this information right at the source, which in this case would be Salesforce. So I could pull that information using Python code into Python. And then since Python is equipped with other mathematical tools that could help run reports in Python, that's where I'll be able to direct that data into being able to run those mathematical functions on.
So after you worked on that project for a while, did you do anything else after that?
Our chief financial officer actually came in and was asking my boss about some missing data that he was looking at. And my boss asked me to come in, since I am our data analyst, that I might be able to lend a service as pointing in the right direction of where this missing data might be. The missing data in question had to do with a workflow project that allows them to receive orders, process an order, and then somebody in our warehouse will confirm that the order has been created and processed, and then they'll leave it to be ready to ship, is what they'll call it. That process, that little section of this is the products that we have that are ready to ship, hadn't been showing up. And so the products were sort of disappearing as far as like our database goes. They were being created, and then the next time they came up, it was during when they were sent out to ship. So our chief financial officer was looking just to make sure that we had some way of keeping track of those orders that go in between when they get completed and when they get shipped out. As it is, we do that column of data just was buried under a lot of different tables. So I had to go find that.
So how did you end up finding the missing data?
In this case, I only needed to look at one place since I knew specifically the workflow that this data was allegedly in, and I knew what one of our systems that was directly related to. So of our three main sources of data internally in our system, we have Salesforce, we have our homegrown system, and we have our Mongo databases, which house all of our product data. I knew it wasn't going to be in product data because it had to do with orders, and I knew it wasn't going to be in Salesforce because it had to do with production. And the data source that handles all of that information is our homegrown system. So I knew that our homegrown system actually can be accessed via SQL Server. So I had to go into SQL Server and look at the number of different tables that are created during an order and see where our missing data might be in there. So after that, I found the data. I let our chief financial officer know that I found the data, but he had stepped out for the rest of the day. He had some off-site meetings that he needed to attend. So he said he would either come and talk to me tomorrow or be more specific as to how he might need that data delivered to him, the specifics of that data, some transform modules that might have to go along with that. So I told him that'll be great. And what I'm thinking for tomorrow is when I meet with him, I'll be able to pull out the data using our ETL service, which is Utillion.
So how specifically did you find the actual data though? Were you just like looking through the various tables of data and, and looking at each column and saying, oh, there it is, that's what he's looking for?
Essentially, this was just looking through some tables on our SQLs, yes.
So why wasn't the CFO able to see the data? Was it not getting created somewhere, or like what was the actual problem?
It was getting created. The data was being fed through. The only thing is that the number of different tables that are created and in turn reflect some sort of data point, just in our production alone, is somewhere close to, I think, 200 different tables. That being said, that there was at one point the number of columns that were containing data that somebody thought the CFO should have. This was not included in those columns.